Every year, thousands of people are reported missing. 95% are found, but some remain simply missing. Welcome to Simply Missing, broadcasting from Portland, Oregon. I'm Neil, and this is Andy. We appreciate your comments and especially any theories you have after hearing the case details. I'll be handing it over to Andy to do the case synopsis of this heartbreaking case. Simply Missing is produced by Neil Portman and Andy Clark. Our theme songs are Mystery Bazaar and Day of Chaos by Kevin MacLeod, used under attribution license.
We'll be covering the case of Asha Degree. She was born August 5th, 1990, which coincidentally is August 5th is the day that we're recording this episode. So today would be Asha's 33rd birthday. She disappeared February of 2000 early in the morning. Asha was shy and wary of strangers, and she loved basketball. She excelled in school, loving math and science. She wanted to be a writer, illustrator, and scientist when she grew up. Asha's parents, Harold and Aquila, were worried about internet predators, so they didn't have a computer, and Asha and her brother O'Brien, who was older than her, weren't allowed to watch much TV either. In the days leading up to Asha's disappearance, she had a basketball game at Burns Middle School, where Asha's team suffered their first loss of the season. Asha and her teammates were devastated at first, but quickly moved on to her brother's game where Asha was happy and just ready to support. Asha had a sleepover at her cousin's house, and they were up late watching TV. The next day was a typical Sunday for the Degree family. They went to church and then to another of Asha's cousin's house where her grandma gave her perfume and candy for Valentine's Day the following day. Asha fell asleep at around 6:30 p.m. on the couch at her home. Aquila, Asha's mom, wanted to give her a bath before bed, but due to a thunderstorm, the power went out, so both Asha and O'Brien were sent to bed instead. Harold, who's Asha's father, got home from work around 12:30 a.m. and checked on the kids and saw them both asleep in their beds. Accounts vary, but Harold either went out to buy Valentine's Day gifts or watched TV until 2:30 a.m. when he checked on Asha and O'Brien again. Shortly after this, O'Brien heard Asha's bed squeaking, but assumed she was moving around in her sleep and didn't check. It is believed that this is when Asha was packing her backpack to leave. Aquila woke up at 5:45 in the morning and wanted to give the kids a bath before going to school. When she entered the room, she saw that O'Brien was the only kid there. She searched the rest of the house and called family members. By 6:40 a.m., the police were on scene with search dogs. A grid search of Highway 18, which was a mile from her house and covered 3 miles in each direction, was searched. The searchers stood about a yard apart and combed the entire area for clues as to what could have happened. Some witnesses reported seeing a young girl along the highway, one reporting seeing her in like a white nightgown, which is what they had reported she had gone to sleep with, and others saying she's wearing a white shirt and jeans. One car circled 3 times and went to try to talk to Asha, at which point she ran off into the woods. Shortly after that, a family came forward and had found a few items in their shed that ended up belonging to Asha. The most common theory for this is that she ran and hid in the shed after the driver pulled over to try to talk to her.
Asha's black bag and black Tweety Bird purse were missing from her room after her disappearance, along with a pair of blue jeans with a red stripe, black sneakers, a long-sleeved shirt with purple lettering, a red vest with black trim, black overalls with Tweety Bird on them, and a long-sleeved black and white shirt. All the doors in the house were found locked. Asha kept her house key in her book bag. Asha's pencil, marker, and Mickey Mouse hairbow were discovered on the ground in the doorway of a tool shed at Turner's Upholstery on Highway 18 on February 17th, 2000, 3 days after her disappearance. Belongings were found near the stretch of road where Asha had been walking in the early morning of February 14th. The search of the area failed to produce any more clues or additional items. However, the residents who owned the shed found something else near Asha's belongings, a wallet-sized picture of another young girl. Asha's family didn't recognize her, and despite the picture being shared widely by the news outlets, no one has ever came forward to identify her. This will become important later on. Me and Annie will discuss this in more detail. But it wasn't somebody from her school, although it did appear to be a school picture.
Asha's backpack was discovered double wrapped in plastic trash bags 26 miles north of her house on Highway 18 a little while later.
The bag contained a New Kids on the Block t-shirt, which didn't belong to Asha, and a Dr. Seuss book called McGillicuddy's Pool. The book was from Asha's school, but it was determined somehow that she didn't check it out. I wonder if Asha got the t-shirt at the slumber party she attended because it was too big for her and could have been worn as a nightie. Andy and I will discuss this in more detail later on.
And with that, we'll get into kind of some of the theories of what could have happened. The first theory was that she had been sleepwalking and ran away after waking up and being startled awake. She walked to school along this road fairly frequently with her brother. She kind of knew the area, but she had no reason to be out that late at night as far as anyone in her family knew. She never went out by herself, really. She was very cautious and very sensible, even as a 9-year-old, to not do anything dangerous like that. And there was a thunderstorm going on that night, and her family said that she was scared of thunderstorms and things like that. So her sleepwalking or running away that night doesn't really make sense to me. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Neil?
This is not a typical warm summer night. It's February, it's raining, it's cold, and it's dark. And like Andy said, she was afraid of the dark. She did go to school 18 miles north of Shelby, where she lived, but she was actually seen about a mile south of the house at the junction of North Carolina 18 and 180. So wherever she was going, she didn't seem to be going to the school bus or to school. She lived in a duplex on 3404 Oak Street in Shelby. And to get to the highway, if she'd gone out the back, she would have had to go through a neighbor's yard to get to the road. Some people theorize that she did something that she thought her parents would be upset about, like breaking something. You know, when kids are little, maybe she thought that she'd be in trouble, so she had to leave, but she didn't seem to have that kind of a family life, so it is odd that she was out there at all, which makes you just wonder why that was the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, like, at least from what I've read, her family seemed like they were great. They were cleared very quickly early on in the investigation as to not be involved. And with how it seems her family was, even if she had, like, broken something or done something wrong, it seemed like her parents were very nice. Like, she wouldn't have felt the need to run away. And I feel like, too, even as a kid, when I was younger, even if I broke something and I wanted to run away, my plans would change as soon as I saw it was rainy or windy, and definitely not going in the middle of the night. Those are some reasons why I don't feel that's necessarily what happened. And another pretty popular theory is that she had been groomed by someone or was targeted in some way by an adult person. But with how limited her access to television or them not having a computer at home, it feels like a person like that would have been noticed in her life, an adult that she was around a lot or that would have had that much access to her. And it seems the only people she was around that much were people in her family. And the fact that no other kids reported anything. She had friends and a whole basketball team, and there were no suspicious adults or anything like that, with them and no other girls went missing around the same time. So it just doesn't seem it was that. But then you're kind of left with nothing that sounds too good. The other thing is that maybe she just got up and ran away, or she got up and thought that it was like dark because it was early to go to school or something. And then she just kind of wandered. I don't have any other good theories that we haven't kind of talked about why not that would be.
I think if she was groomed, it would have had to be, like you said, more live. It wasn't as odd then for people to not have here in the home, because that was 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I think the internet starts showing up really in some corporate settings around 95, maybe a bit later. So 2000, I think it's not that odd. So if she was groomed, it would have had to been in basketball, at church, at school. And the one kind of piece that does kind of lean to that is there was this strange picture of a young African-American girl that was found with her stuff in the shed that Andy was talking about, that nobody knows who that picture is of. They never identified the girl as none of her classmates or her friends. Was this someone that some adult promised her that she was going to meet if she went out? Just her motivation is just baffling.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of very few reasons that even now in my 20s that I want to leave my house at 3 a.m. when there's a storm outside. Like there's hardly anything I would do that for, and let alone being 9. There has to have been something that was really good. But then also, like, she was with her friends and people in her family. If someone came up to you and said, "Oh, I'm going to take you to meet this cool new girl," or the classic, "I have candy," or "I have a puppy if you come meet me." As a kid, you're not very good at keeping secrets like that. Being around your friends, you would just be, "Oh yeah, this person told me this," or "I'm going to go do this." And none of her friends said that she said anything like that. So yeah, I don't know. It either had to be something really good and a stranger who had promised her something that she really wanted and made her keep it a secret, or it would have to be an adult that she trusted to go away with. Then it wouldn't be uncommon for her to shrug it off and be, "Oh yeah, I'm going to see this person. Nobody really needs to know. I'm just going to do it. I know that person. Everybody knows that person." It's just, the whole thing is baffling. So many weird things about it that have been combed through over the years, and yet still no developments 20 years later.
Yeah, their backpack was found August 3rd, 2001. So about a year and a half later, by a bulldozer company who was working the ground. He said it was double bagged 6 miles south of Morgantown, which is about 29 miles north of Shelby, where she lived. So that kind of points to foul play.
Yeah.
But what was her motivation? And you got to be really motivated, like you said, even as an adult, to go out in that weather. The other theories: did she want to get Valentine's Day presents for her parents?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody promised her something, or it was her parents' anniversary the next day. Also, maybe she was trying to do something for that. Something happened at the slumber party.
The theory about her getting presents for her parents for their anniversary or for Valentine's Day, I could see that. She seems like a caring kid who would want to do something like that, and then maybe just got lost. But then there being no sign of her during any of the search or anything. I feel like there has to have been someone involved at some point in either helping her disappear, even as a 9-year-old, which is like weird that she would want to run off and start a new life, or they did something to her and that's why no one has been found. Even if it started as something as simple as her trying to do a nice thing, it's just gone. We're off the deep end.
At some point there was foul play, because if she was sleepwalking, she eventually would have woke up, right, and been
Mhm.
frightened and startled.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what she was when the truck drivers going down 18 saw her,
Yeah.
like you talked about before. Did she wake up then? But at some point, it feels like, given the fact that her backpack was found, that somebody else saw her and inserted herself into the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then think there was another car that the FBI sent out years later. So what date was that? In 2018. So we're talking 18 years after. They talk about this green 1970 Lincoln Continental or Mark IV Thunderbird with rust in the wheel well. The two cars look almost identical. Somehow they think that car was involved. So the Bureau thinks that something foul play related happened, whether it was set up in advance or somebody just took advantage.
I lean more towards she went out to do something nice and was picked up at this point. Previously, it was definitely someone convinced her to get out of the house, but I think she would have told someone something about it. Her family said that she was wary of strangers. If there was someone that she trusted enough to go out and meet, it seems odd that there wasn't any communication about that beforehand. But just with the backpack being double wrapped, maybe it was just someone who found it and had heard about the case and was like, I don't want to be involved in this. So they double wrapped it and buried it and tried to forget about it. Even just doing that is covering up what happened. There was in the backpack a New Kids on the Block shirt, but the New Kids on the Block shirt was not Aisha's. So that put in my head, maybe there was someone else in the area who found the backpack who had kids and was, oh, like, this stuff is awesome. I'll use this for my child. And then they were using it and using the contents of it and then found out what had happened to the original owner, and that being Aisha, and then buried it and tried to forget about it and accidentally left in the New Kids on the Block shirt, which would also kind of explain to me how it was discovered a year and some change later too by the bulldozing company, and how it got so far away from where she was last seen.
That was another detail the police didn't release till a long time later, was that shirt. And also another book that somehow as a Dr. Seuss book, McGilligan's Pool, that somehow they know that she didn't check it out, even though it came from Folsom Elementary where she went to school. They say she wasn't the one that checked it out, but they don't have a record of who, which I don't understand how they know that. But
yeah,
maybe they have some reason that they're not telling us. A couple of weird things are, along with her stuff that were in her backpack, was those two items that her parents say were hers. And she could have picked them up at the slumber party, and no one knows exactly if the backpack was unpacked. I mean, her basketball uniform was in it. Did she ever unpack it? Did she just set it there after the slumber party with all her stuff in it and just pick it up? Or did she purposely pack this stuff? No one really knows the timeline of when she packed the backpack, and that would be sort of critical.
I saw some people were saying that the contents of her backpack made them think that maybe it started out as the slumber party bag, but then she put in some of what she thought she would need if she was going somewhere. But again, for a kid who has loving parents, and the police cleared the family, so we're not pointing fingers there, she would have talked to them about if something really cool or exciting was happening in her life, given the fact that they went to her basketball games and she showed up for her brother's basketball games and they did a lot of stuff as a family. It seems she was well loved, and she knew that just from how sweet of a kid she was. So it's just, the whole thing is weird. There's got to be something out there that will be finally the key.
There's a piece missing. Speaking of the key, she did have a key to her house because her and O'Brien, they were latchkey kids. Her parents would work during the day. That was everything. No sign of forced entry in the house. The doors were all locked. The other thing the police did I thought was kind of clever was they put up a roadblock on Highway 18 between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. and saw who drove by and asked them if they saw anything that night, because maybe there'd be people having regular routes, like the truck drivers that saw her did that route. That didn't yield any major clues. Again, it just comes back to what was her motivation for that. And she's 9, so you really don't see that kind of runaway thing till 11, 12, 13. So yeah, it's just very odd.
Yeah. It is just weird. There's so many things about it that just don't match up enough for it to be a runaway situation, but there's also not been a body recovered or anything like that to determine that she was killed or something by someone. So I don't know. I did see that her mom still believes that she is alive and that they will find her at some point in time. One of the things I saw was people talking about maybe she was trafficked by someone and just was like easy snatch and grab, but that also doesn't really fit what happened to her, for someone having to pick her up and not have any witnesses and then get rid of the backpack and everything they did to kind of cover up what happened to her and to get her out of the shed. There's just so many things that it doesn't feel like a crime of opportunity. It feels a little more planned than that, but also not necessarily a stranger promising her something.
Was she groomed? Certainly wasn't on the internet, at least not at home. Yeah. Like I said, it had to be somebody she trusted, like, we're going to take you to Disneyland or something. Another theory was about this book that they read called The Whipping Boy, which I guess some prince who, they're reading this book at school, and the prince servant gets whipped every time the prince does something bad. And then those two go off on an adventure, the prince and his servant, and then they come back, and some people think that maybe he was trying to live out that book. It seems like she would have to do with another person, though.
Yeah, she and her brother would have run off together, but he was there.
Or the picture of the girl that somebody promised her she would meet.
The girl in the picture has still not been identified, which is, with the age of technology we have now, it seems like you should be able to just run like a facial recognition thing on it and find out exactly who she is.
That picture was in the newspaper, but it was way back, like page 75. It wasn't like front page. And now it's sort of, unless you know about the case, you really don't see the picture. It seems like somebody would know who this kid is if they saw her.
Yeah.
Of course, that picture is 2000, so she'd be grown up. She'd be probably the same age as Asia now, right? In her 30s.
Yeah.
But it seems like somebody would know who she is.
Yeah.
If they actually saw it.
I feel like if you turned on the news and saw a picture of your kid from 20 years ago, you'd be like, well, yeah, I know who that is. That's my kid. But the case is very cold, obviously. So getting that picture out there without people just going to look it up for curiosity's sake is just not likely that something like that would happen. But I mean, even pictures of people in my family from the 2000s, like, you take one look at it and you're like, I know exactly who that is, even though they may look completely different now. From what I recall, like almost like a school picture.
Yeah.
Like
a school
little pocket portrait.
Yeah.
Like that has to have been taken by someone in some kind of studio or like at a school for picture day, but it's not at her school. That picture's weird. And I feel like the more it gets out, maybe we have a better chance of identifying the girl and then finding out what could have happened.
Or the perp just grabbed some random picture, but still,
yeah,
it still could help if they could tie that back to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, no clues. Let's see if there's anything else. They did try to look at several sex offenders, and actually several criminals have come forward and have taken credit for her being missing. But none of those have panned out. One guy said her body was in the lake, and then they dragged the lake a bunch of times, and he just wanted to get some special privileges.
It's sad that that's where some people will go, is trying to take credit and send police on wild goose chases to see what they can find. But it's eventually one of these tips will be legit, and then we'll get to find out what happened to her.
Summer of 2000, Major Dip County Jail, Baron Ramsey said he knew what happened to Asia. Said they were driving towards Shelby on Northeast 18th. So him and this other guy on NC 18 after buying drugs in Hickory. The other man struck a girl crossing the road, put her in the back of his pickup, dropped them out of the home. Said they dumped Asia's body in Moss Lake near Kings Mountain. Says police searched Highway 18 for car parts, like usually if you hit somebody, you leave debris around.
Mm-hmm.
Dragged Moss Lake twice and used underwater infrared. No sign of Asia was found. And Ramsey was moved to Cleveland County Jail that was part of the deal to get the driver to talk. So basically, he just wanted some special privileges. And then there was another sex offender that they looked into, 57-year-old Donald Ferguson. He was arrested in 1990 for rape and murder of a 7-year-old Shalonda Pohl. They found her body behind the elementary school in Greensboro, North Carolina. So they put his DNA into the system, and they didn't get any hits on anybody else. They looked at him, but nothing really came of it. If he did do it, they don't have a way to tie her back, because they don't have her body or even to know what happened to her.
I have become more and more open to people being found alive, with several people coming forward after years of being missing and being found and talking about their experience. I'm a true crime person, and it never seems like cases where someone's been missing for over 20 years are really going to go in the she was found alive and happy living on a ranch somewhere. We're just kind of waiting to see what the next piece of the puzzle is.
Alicia Navarro?
Yep.
I think that was 3 years. Yeah, you're getting out 30. And this one kind of has this, you get this vibe that something more sinister happened to Asha than those two for some reason.
Yeah. The thing I did just think of, though, as a theory was brought up by what you were talking about just now with the first guy who said that they hit her with his car. And I'm like, I mean, that could have happened. She was scared. She came out from the shed, started walking back towards the road, saw something in the distance or heard something, and she just ran and got hit by a car.
Somebody did a hit and run or took her body and dumped it so they didn't get prosecuted for hit and run.
Yeah, that's another thing that I feel like that could have happened, especially given the stormy weather and everything else going on. And in theory, you would see some sort of marks in the road or evidence left behind, but there have to have been car accidents where there's just no trace. If they didn't see her, then there would be no brake skids, and if she hit just the right part of the car, she wouldn't have broken a light, broken anything. Maybe that's what happened and the person just didn't want to get in trouble. Like, it could have been a teenager out or somebody who was driving drunk, because it's early in the morning, so people going home from bars or something, and hits her and is, what do I do now? And just kind of panics. And that's why you could see the double wrapped backpack too, because one garbage bag is not going to be good enough to keep this evidence at bay, so I better double wrap it. Which, I mean, could point to someone who knows what they're doing, but could also point to someone who has no clue and wants to ensure that this backpack stays packaged.
She could have been sleepwalking and then just got hit. Or for whatever reason, she went out there and ended up just getting hit. And instead of get hits and runs all the time, people just drive off. I guess late at night, maybe nobody saw, so I'll just get the body.
Yep.
And then
my driving record stays clean.
Or they're working to get to the hospital when she dies on the way and they freak out. Yeah, that could have happened.
I could see it just being a hit and run and panic. She was dead when they hit her, or like she passed on the way to the hospital, or they dropped her off at a random hospital and told them something. Ships in the night happened to pass anyone who could have known that was Asha, and now she's grown up somewhere completely different.
Still wonder why she was out there in the first place. Unless she's found, I don't know if we're ever going to know, or somebody comes forward and says they lured her out there.
I hope one day we get answers.
Yeah, especially for her parents who still don't celebrate their anniversary because that's the day that she disappeared.
Yeah, that would be hard. You can find out more information as well as see our notes in the description of this episode. We each have our own theories of what may have happened, but in the end, Asha Degree remains simply missing.